The stars looked peaceful from the bridge of the Eternal Harmony. Admiral Sarah Chun Okafor watched them through the giant windows of her ship. She had been doing this job for 20 years now. Every day was the same. Patrol the space around Earth, help traders who got lost, rescue ships that broke down, sometimes deliver medicine to planets that needed it. Sarah was 45 years old. She had gray hair and kind eyes. Most people liked her because she always tried to help. Her crew loved working for her because she cared about them. The ship was huge, bigger than most cities on Earth. It had rooms for 5,000 people. But it never fought anyone. The year was 5024. Humans had been living in peace for 3,000 years. No wars, no fighting, no battles between different planets. The galaxy was quiet and safe. Earth had become the place where everyone came to solve problems. When two alien races got angry at each other, they came to Earth. Humans would sit them down and help them talk. Usually, the problems went away. Sarah remembered her training at the Space Academy. They taught her about weapons and fighting, but she never used any of it. The weapons on her ship were old. Some of them did not even work anymore. The crew did not know how to use them. Why would they need to? There was no one to fight. The bridge was quiet today. Lieutenant Mark Torres sat at his station reading reports about trade ships. Nothing interesting. A few ships were late, but that was normal. Space was big, and sometimes things took longer than planned. Commander Lisa Park was checking the ship's systems. Everything worked fine. It always did. Sarah's communicator beeped. A message came from Earth. It was from Admiral Johnson, her boss. He wanted to talk to her right away. Sarah pressed a button and his face appeared on her screen. He looked worried. "Sarah, we need you to come to Earth immediately," Admiral Johnson said. His voice was serious. "Bring your ship to Luna Base. Something big is happening." "What kind of something?" Sarah asked. She had never seen Admiral Johnson look so worried before. "I cannot tell you over the radio. Just come quickly." "And Sarah?" Admiral Johnson paused. "Wake up all your crew. Make sure everyone is ready." The screen went dark. Sarah stared at it for a moment. In 20 years, she had never gotten a message like that. She turned to her crew. "Lieutenant Torres, set course for Luna Base. Best speed possible," she said. "Commander Park, wake up everyone on the ship. Tell them we have an emergency." "What kind of emergency?" Commander Park asked. "I do not know yet," Sarah said. "But Admiral Johnson has never acted like this before. Something is very wrong." The ship turned toward Earth. The big engines started working harder. Sarah could feel the ship move faster through space. She sat in her chair and thought about what could be so important. Maybe an earthquake on one of the human worlds? Maybe a disease that was spreading? But why would they need her whole crew awake for that? 3 hours later, the Eternal Harmony arrived at Luna Base. Luna Base was a huge space station that orbited Earth's moon. It was where the Terran Defense Fleet kept its headquarters. Sarah had been there many times before for meetings and training, but this time felt different. There were more ships around the base than usual. Big ships, old ships that she had not seen in years. Admiral Johnson met Sarah at the docking bay. He was a tall man with white hair. He had been in the fleet for 40 years. Sarah had known him since she was a young officer. He always smiled when he saw her. Today, he did not smile. "Sarah, come with me," he said. "We need to talk in private." They walked through the halls of the station. Sarah noticed that there were more people working than usual. Everyone looked busy and worried. Some of them were carrying boxes of equipment. Others were running between rooms with papers in their hands. Admiral Johnson led her to a meeting room she had never seen before. It was deep inside the station. The walls were thick metal. There were no windows. Inside the room, other admirals and generals were waiting. Sarah knew some of them. They all looked serious. "Sarah, sit down," Admiral Johnson said. "What I am about to tell you will be hard to believe." Sarah sat down. Her heart was beating fast. She had no idea what was coming. 3 hours ago, we got a message from the edge of the galaxy, Admiral Johnson said. "A new alien race has appeared. They call themselves the Cathara. They are different from any aliens we have met before." Sarah nodded. Humans had met many alien races over the years. Most of them were friendly. Some were strange, but they all lived in peace together. "The Cathara sent us a message," Admiral Johnson continued. "They want us to surrender. All of us, every human world, every human ship. They want us to become their slaves." Sarah's mouth fell open. "Slaves? That's impossible. No one has asked for something like that in thousands of years." "They gave us 1 year to decide," Admiral Johnson said. "If we do not surrender, they will attack us. They will destroy our worlds and kill our people." Sarah felt cold. She had never heard anything so terrible. "What are we going to do?" Admiral Johnson looked at the other officers in the room. They all nodded at him. "Sarah, there is something about human history that most people do not know. Something that was hidden a long time ago." He pressed a button on the table. The lights went dim. Pictures appeared on the wall. Old pictures. Pictures of battles and wars and destroyed planets. 3,000 years ago, humans were not peaceful, Admiral Johnson said. "We were the most dangerous fighters in the galaxy. We fought wars that scared other aliens so much that they begged us to stop. We were so good at fighting that we scared ourselves." Sarah stared at the pictures. She saw human ships destroying entire fleets. She saw human soldiers fighting on alien worlds. She saw things that made her feel sick. "We chose to stop fighting," Admiral Johnson said. "We locked away our weapons. We became peaceful. We helped other races instead of hurting them. But we never forgot how to fight. We just chose not to." Sarah felt dizzy. Everything she had learned about human history was wrong. "Why are you telling me this?" Admiral Johnson stood up. His face was hard now, different from the kind man she had known for years. "Because tomorrow we go back to war." The Galactic Council building was the biggest structure on Centaurus Prime. It had been built 500 years ago when all the different alien races decided to work together. The building was shaped like a giant circle. Inside, there were seats for representatives from over 200 different worlds. Today, every seat was full. Ambassador Elena Vasquez sat in the human section, wearing her best blue uniform. She was 50 years old and had been Earth's voice in the Council for 10 years. Elena was known for being calm and smart. She could solve problems that other people could not. Many alien races trusted her more than they trusted their own leaders, but today felt different. Everyone in the huge room seemed nervous. Elena could hear whispered conversations in dozens of alien languages. The Zephyrians were clicking their claws against their seats. The Valdorans were changing colors from their usual green to worried purple. Even the calm Etherians were floating higher than normal, which meant they were scared. Elena checked her tablet. The emergency meeting had been called by someone new, a race that no one in the council had ever heard of before. They called themselves the Cathara Hegemony. 3 days ago, their ships had appeared at the edge of the galaxy. Big ships. Strange ships. Ships that looked like they were grown instead of built. The lights in the council chamber dimmed. A huge screen appeared in the center of the room. On the screen, an alien appeared. Elena had seen many different types of aliens in her years as an ambassador, but this one was different. It looked like a giant insect crossed with a machine. Its eyes were black and cold. Its body was covered in metal armor that seemed to be part of its skin. I am High Imperator Zak Thul of the Cathara Hegemony, the alien said. Its voice was translated into every language in the council, but it still sounded harsh and cruel. I speak for the greatest military force this galaxy has ever seen. The council chamber was completely quiet. Elena felt her heart beating faster. She had handled many difficult situations before, but something about this alien made her skin crawl. We have been watching your galaxy for many cycles, Zak Thul continued. We have seen your weakness, your softness, your pathetic attempts at peace. We have decided that you are ready to serve us. Angry voices started to rise from the alien delegates. The Arcturian representative stood up and shouted something in his own language. The vegan council members were hissing at each other. Elena remained quiet and listened. You will surrender all your worlds to the hegemony, Zak Thul said, ignoring the noise. Your ships will become our ships. Your people will work for us. You will provide us with food, materials, and soldiers for our armies. Elena's tablet beeped. Messages were coming in from other human ambassadors around the galaxy. Everyone was asking the same question. What do we do? We are not unreasonable, Zak Thul continued. We will give you time to accept reality. You have 1 standard year to surrender completely. If you refuse, we will take what we want by force. We will destroy your fleets. We will burn your worlds. We will sell your survivors as slaves in distant markets. The alien leaned forward on the screen. Elena could see that its teeth were made of metal. But we are especially interested in the humans, Zak Thul said. You have proven to be excellent at following orders and working hard. Your breeding rate is acceptable. You will make good slaves for our empire. Elena felt anger rising in her chest. She had spent her whole career helping different races work together. She had prevented wars and saved lives. And now this creature was talking about selling humans like animals. We know humans are the leaders of your pathetic peace, Zak Thul said. You have made this galaxy weak with your talk of friendship and cooperation. When we rule, there will be no more friendship. Only service to the hegemony. The Zephyrian ambassador stood up. He was shaking. You cannot be serious, he said. We are a civilized galaxy. We solve problems by talking, not fighting. Zak Thul laughed. It was a horrible sound, like metal scraping against stone. Talking, he said. Yes, you are very good at talking. But talking will not stop our weapons. Talking will not protect your children when our armies come. Elena looked around the chamber. Some ambassadors were crying. Others were typing messages on their tablets, probably telling their homeworlds to prepare for surrender. The Taosetian delegate had already left his seat and was running toward the exit. You have 1 year, Zak Thul repeated. When that year is over, we will come. Prepare to kneel before the hegemony. The screen went dark. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then, everyone started talking at once. Aliens were shouting in their own languages. Some were crying. Others were arguing about what to do. Elena stood up slowly. She pressed the button that would let her speak to the whole council. Her voice was broadcast to every seat in the chamber. Council members, please calm down, she said. Her voice was steady and strong. We need to think about this carefully. Think? The Rigelian ambassador stood up. What is there to think about? They are going to destroy us all. We should surrender now and hope they are merciful. Merciful? Elena shook her head. Did that creature sound merciful to you? They want to make us all slaves. They want to treat us like animals. The Andromedan representative, a tall blue alien named Kethmar, looked at Elena with hope in his large eyes. Ambassador Vasquez, you humans have always found peaceful solutions before. Can you negotiate with them? Can you find a way to make peace? Elena was quiet for a long moment. She thought about her daughter back on Earth. She thought about the children playing in the parks on New Terra. She thought about all the worlds where humans and aliens lived together in harmony. Then she thought about Zach Thul's metal teeth and cold black eyes. No, Elena said finally. There will be no negotiation, no compromise, no peace with creatures like that. The chamber became quiet again. Everyone was looking at her. So what do we do? Asked the Centaurian delegate. Elena felt something change inside her, something she had never felt before. It was like waking up from a long, peaceful dream. She thought about her grandfather, who had told her stories about the old days, stories that she had always thought were just legends. We fight, Elena said. The alien delegate stared at her in shock. Fight? Cathmar said. But humans do not fight. You are peacekeepers. You solve problems with words. Elena looked around the chamber at all the frightened faces. Then she smiled. It was not her usual warm, diplomatic smile. It was something different. Something that made several aliens step backward. You are right, Elena said. We have been peacekeepers for 3,000 years. We have solved problems with words. We have been gentle and kind and helpful. She paused and looked directly at the camera that broadcast council meetings across the galaxy. But before we were peacekeepers, we were something else. And some things, once learned, are never really forgotten. Elena's smile grew wider. The Cathara think humans will make good slaves because we follow orders and work hard. They are right about one thing. When humans decide to do something, we are very, very good at it. She stood up straighter. Send a message to the Cathara hegemony. Tell them that humanity respectfully declines their offer. Tell them we choose to stand and fight. Elena looked around the chamber one more time. And tell them that they have made a very serious mistake. The alarm started ringing at exactly midnight Earth time. Not the gentle chime that usually woke people up for their morning shifts. This was different. This was the deep, loud sound that had not been heard for 3,000 years. The sound that meant war was coming. Dr. James Harrison woke up in his small apartment on New Caledonia. He was a doctor who took care of sick children. His wife Mary was a teacher. Their two kids, Tommy and Lisa, were sleeping in the next room. James had lived a quiet, peaceful life for 38 years. He helped people and never hurt anyone. But when the alarm rang, something strange happened. James sat up in bed and felt his heart start beating fast. Not from fear, but from something else. Something that felt like excitement. His body seemed to know what the alarm meant, even though his mind did not understand. James, what is that noise? Mary asked. She was scared. The alarm was so loud it made the window shake. I do not know, James said. But that was not completely true. Deep down, in a part of his mind he did not usually think about, he did know. His grandfather had told him stories. Stories about alarms like this. Stories about what happened when humans had to fight. James got out of bed and turned on the television. The news was showing pictures from all over the galaxy. Alien ships were everywhere. Big, dark ships that looked like giant insects. The reporter was trying to stay calm, but James could hear fear in her voice. The alien race calling itself the Cathara has given humanity 1 year to surrender, the reporter said. But Earth's government has refused. All human worlds are now preparing for war. The screen changed to show Ambassador Elena Vasquez standing in front of the Galactic Council. James watched her speak about fighting and resistance. When she smiled at the end of her speech, James felt that same strange excitement again. The television screen went black for a moment. Then new pictures appeared. Pictures that made James's mouth fall open in surprise. He was looking at Earth, but not the Earth he knew. This Earth had huge metal structures rising out of the ground. Giant weapons that pointed toward space. Ships that looked like nothing he had ever seen before. The reporter's voice came back on. "These are live images from Earth's surface," she said. "Military installations that have been hidden for 3,000 years are now activating across the planet." James stared at the screen. How could Earth hide weapons that big? How could something so huge stay secret for so long? His tablet beeped. A message had arrived. It was from the New Caledonia Defense Force. James had never heard of the New Caledonia Defense Force. He opened the message. "Dr. James Harrison," the message read. "Report to Colonial Defense Center immediately. Bring your medical kit. Your genetic profile indicates you have been selected for emergency military service. This is not optional." James read the message 3 times. Military service? He was a doctor, not a soldier. He had never even held a real weapon. The closest he had come to fighting was playing video games with his son, but as James got dressed, his hands moved automatically to a box under his bed. A box he had not opened in years. Inside were things his grandfather had left him. Old pictures, old books, and something wrapped in cloth that his grandfather had told him to keep safe but never use. James unwrapped the cloth. Inside was a knife. Not a kitchen knife or a medical tool. This was something else. Something designed for killing. The handle felt perfect in his hand, like it had been made just for him. When he touched it, more memories came back. Not his memories, but older ones. Memories that seemed to be written into his blood. Mary was awake now, watching him. "James, what is that?" she asked. "I'm not sure," James said, "but I think I need it." James kissed his wife and children goodbye. He told them to stay inside and wait for him to come home. But as he walked toward the door, his 6-year-old daughter, Lisa, grabbed his arm. "Daddy, are you going to fight the bad aliens?" she asked. James looked down at her. "I hope not, sweetheart. Daddy is a doctor. I help people get better." Lisa nodded, but then she did something strange. She started humming a song. It was a lullaby that James had sung to her when she was little. But now, listening to it, James realized it was not really a lullaby. The words were about fighting and winning and never giving up. It was a war song. He had been teaching his children war songs without even knowing it. The Colonial Defense Center was a building James had walked past hundreds of times. It looked like a normal office building. But when he arrived, everything had changed. The walls had moved. New rooms had appeared. Equipment that James had never seen before filled every space. And the people inside were different too. Colonel Sarah Mitchell was waiting for James. She was a woman in her 50s who James had met before at community events. She had always seemed like a normal person who worked for the colonial government. Now she was wearing a military uniform covered with medals and badges. She looked like she had been a soldier her whole life. "Dr. Harrison, thank you for coming quickly," Colonel Mitchell said. "I know this is confusing. Let me explain." She led James into a room filled with computers and screens. On the walls were maps of New Caledonia that showed things James had never seen before. Secret tunnels under the cities, hidden weapons in the mountains, shields that could protect the entire planet. For 3,000 years, every human colony has been prepared for war, Colonel Mitchell said. "We built our cities with hidden defenses. We trained our people without them knowing it. We made sure that if the peace ever ended, we would be ready." James shook his head. "But I am just a doctor. I do not know how to fight." Colonel Mitchell smiled. "Dr. Harrison, do you remember the surgery you did last month? The one where you saved that child who was hurt in the farming accident?" James nodded. It had been a difficult operation. The child's injuries were very bad. James had worked for 8 hours without stopping. He had made decisions quickly and calmly while everyone around him was panicking. "You worked under extreme pressure," Colonel Mitchell said. "You made life-and-death decisions every minute. You stayed calm when other people were scared. You fought to save that child's life, and you won." James began to understand. "You are saying that saving lives and taking lives use the same skills?" "I am saying that humans are very good at both," Colonel Mitchell said. "We spent 3,000 years learning to save lives instead of taking them. But the ability to fight has always been there, waiting." She handed James a tablet. On the screen were medical records, but not the kind he was used to seeing. These were battle injury reports, guides for treating weapons wounds, instructions for surgery during combat. "Your job is still to save lives," Colonel Mitchell said. "But now you might have to do it while people are shooting at you." James looked at the tablet. The information seemed familiar, like he had studied it before, even though he knew he had not. His grandfather's stories came back to him. Stories about field hospitals and medics who carried guns along with their medical supplies. "What about my family?" James asked. "They will be safer if you do your job well," Colonel Mitchell said. "The aliens think we are weak because we have been peaceful. They think we will surrender easily. They are about to learn that there is a difference between choosing not to fight and not knowing how to fight." James felt that strange excitement again. It was stronger now. It felt like waking up after a long sleep. "When do we start?" Colonel Mitchell's smile became wider. "We already have. Right now, across the galaxy, millions of humans are remembering what we really are. The Cathara wanted a war with peaceful farmers and gentle diplomats." She walked to the window and pointed at the sky. James could see ships moving between the stars. Human ships, but they look different now. Bigger, deadlier. Instead, they are going to get a war with the most dangerous species in galactic history, Colonel Mitchell said. A species that spent 3,000 years getting better at everything, including war. High Imperator Zach Thole watched the battle reports from his command ship deep in space. The first attacks on human worlds had begun 3 days ago. His generals had promised him easy victories. They said humans were soft and weak. They said human colonies would surrender as soon as they saw Cathara ships. But something was wrong. Very wrong. The first target had been New Caledonia, a farming world with 2 million humans. The attack fleet had arrived expecting to find frightened farmers hiding in their homes. Instead, they found something impossible. Commander Vex Claw had led the attack. He was one of Zach Thole's best officers. He had conquered 30 worlds for the hegemony. When his ships reached New Caledonia, he sent the standard surrender message. Most species gave up immediately when they saw Cathara, bioships darkening their sky. The humans sent back a message of their own. It was just 2 words. "Come on." Vexclo had laughed at first. Then he ordered his ships to begin the bombardment. That was when everything went wrong. The planet's surface had exploded into light. Weapons that should not exist fired from hidden positions all over the world. The peaceful farming towns transformed in seconds into fortress complexes. Buildings moved and changed shape. Roads became missile launchers. Even the farms themselves turned into weapons, firing beams of energy that cut through Cathara ships like paper. But the worst part was the humans themselves. Vexclo had expected to see people running and screaming. Instead, he watched farmers and teachers and shopkeepers pick up weapons and fight like trained soldiers. They moved together like they had been planning this battle for years. They knew exactly where to go and what to do. Dr. James Harrison had become someone Vexclaw did not understand. The gentle doctor who healed children was now a warrior who led attacks against Cathara landing parties. He still saved lives, working on wounded humans while enemy ships fired at his position. But between surgeries, He coordinated defensive positions and called in artillery strikes with cold precision. Vexclaw had brought 300 ships to New Caledonia. After 6 hours of fighting, only 50 were still working. The rest were floating metal wreckage or burning in the planet's atmosphere. The commander had never seen anything like it. The humans fought like they could see the future. Every trap the Cathara set, the humans were already ready for it. Every attack route the Cathara chose, the humans had weapons waiting. It was like fighting an enemy that could read minds. But New Caledonia was not the only problem. Reports were coming in from all over human space. Every world the Cathara attacked was ready for them. Every human colony had weapons that violated peace treaties and defenses that should have been impossible to hide. On Kepler 442b, Cathara ground forces had landed expecting to fight colonial militia. Instead, they found humans using weapons that turned their bioarmor into poison against their own bodies. Somehow, the humans had developed viruses that attacked Cathara biology specifically. Weapons designed to kill only them. Admiral Sarah Chan Okafor had taken her fleet of ceremonial ships to meet a Cathara battle group near Proxima Centauri. The Cathara had more ships and bigger weapons. But when the battle started, the human ships revealed modifications that made Zachthul's scientists question everything they thought they knew about physics. The Eternal Harmony had fired something called gravity lances that reached across space and crushed enemy ships from the inside out. Smaller human vessels released clouds of tiny machines that ate through Cathara hulls and turned their own biometal against them. Every human ship fought like it was 10 ships, using weapons and tactics that seemed impossible. But what worried Zachthul most was not the weapons. It was how the humans used them. Every human commander fought not just the current battle, but the next 5 battles at the same time. They would lose a fight on purpose to set up a bigger victory later. They would sacrifice their own ships to put enemy forces in exactly the position they wanted them. General Kethral, Zachthul's chief strategist, brought him the latest reports. The Cathara were winning individual battles, but somehow losing the war. Human forces were smaller and newer, but they were always in the right place at the right time. They knew things about Cathara movements that they should not know. How are they doing this? Zachthul demanded. Our intelligence said humans had not fought a war in 3,000 years. They should not know these tactics. General Kethral's mandibles clicked nervously. High Imperator, we may have made a mistake. Our spies watched human space for centuries. They saw peaceful traders and diplomats, but they never looked deep enough. The general activated a holographic display that showed human space in detail. Every human trade route is positioned for maximum strategic value. Every diplomatic mission they sent gathered intelligence on our border worlds. Every peaceful colony was placed to control key military positions. Zachthul stared at the display. What he had thought was random peaceful expansion suddenly looked like the most careful military planning in galactic history. They have been preparing for this war for 3,000 years. General Kethral continued. Every day of peace was another day of planning. Every human who lived a quiet life was also trained for war without knowing it. Every song their children sing contains tactical information. Every story they tell their families includes battle strategies. The High Imperator felt something he had never experienced before: fear. You are telling me that the entire human species has been one giant military operation? Not an operation, General Kethral said. An evolution. They did not just prepare for war. They became better at everything during their peace. Better at science, so they could make better weapons. Better at medicine, so they could keep their soldiers alive longer. Better at engineering, so they could build ships we cannot destroy. Zachthul looked at the battle reports again. Cathara forces were not just losing. They were being destroyed in ways that made no sense. Human ships that should have been outgunned were winning because they used tactics that had never been seen before. Human soldiers, who should have been untrained farmers, were fighting like they had been born for war. "High Imperator," his communication officer called out. "We are receiving a transmission from the human fleet near Proxima Centauri." "Put it on screen," Zach Thole ordered. Admiral Sarah Chen Okafor appeared on the display. She was standing on the bridge of her ship, which should have been destroyed hours ago. Instead, it looked completely undamaged. Behind her, Zach Thole could see the wreckage of 50 Kithara vessels floating in space. "High Imperator Zach Thole," Admiral Chen Okafor said. Her voice was calm and professional. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen Okafor of the Terran Defense Fleet. I have a message for you." Zach Thole leaned forward. "Speak, human." "You made a mistake when you chose to threaten us," Admiral Chen Okafor said. "You assumed that because we chose peace, we had forgotten how to make war. You were wrong." The Admiral gestured to something off-screen. New ships appeared around her vessel. More human ships than should have been possible. Ships that had not been there a moment before. "We remember everything," Admiral Chen Okafor continued. "Every battle our ancestors fought. Every tactic they used. Every weapon they built. We have had 3,000 years to improve on all of it." Zach Thole felt his heart beating faster. "What do you want?" Admiral Chen Okafor smiled. It was the same smile Ambassador Elena Vasquez had worn in the Galactic Council. The smile that had worried him then and terrified him now. "We want you to understand something very important," she said. "This war is already over. You just do not know it yet." 6 months after the first Kithara attack, the galaxy watched in amazement as the impossible happened. The most powerful military force in galactic history was losing a war to people they had called weak and soft. But High Imperator Zach Thole was beginning to understand that the humans had never been weak. They had been something much more dangerous. Patient. The Kithara had expected to fight farmers and teachers and doctors. Instead, they found themselves fighting farmers who could turn entire planets into weapons. Teachers who had been secretly studying Kithara weaknesses for decades. And doctors who could heal their own people, while simultaneously developing biological weapons designed to kill only the enemy. Dr. James Harrison stood in what used to be his hospital on New Caledonia. The building had transformed completely during the war. It was still a place where wounded people came to be healed. But now it was also a command center, a weapons factory, and a fortress that had never fallen to enemy attack. James had changed too. He still saved lives every day, working to heal wounded humans and even wounded aliens who fought alongside them. But between surgeries, he coordinated planetary defenses and planned attacks against Kithara positions. The gentle doctor and the strategic commander had become the same person. His daughter Lisa, now 7 years old, still hummed the old songs. But James understood them differently now. They were not just lullabies. They were oral histories of human warfare, passed down through generations who thought they were just singing to their children. Every human child had been taught tactics and strategies disguised as bedtime stories. The real truth was becoming clear across the galaxy. Humanity's 3,000-year peace had not been rest. It had been the longest military research and development project in galactic history. Every peaceful year had been used to study, plan, and prepare for the day when war might return. Admiral Sarah Chen Okafor commanded the final assault on the Kithara home system. Her fleet had grown far beyond what anyone thought possible. Ships from dozens of species flew alongside human vessels. Aliens who had once dismissed humans as too peaceful to understand real conflict now fought beside them against the hegemony, the Zephyrians, who had been terrified during the first council meeting, now served as scouts for human fleets. The Andromedans used their advanced computers to help coordinate human battle plans. Even species that had been neutral at first were now sending ships and soldiers to help defeat the Cathara. But the most shocking thing was not the alliance itself. It was how the humans had built it. Every diplomatic mission over the past 3,000 years had carefully studied the species they visited. Humans knew exactly which aliens would be natural allies, which ones could be convinced to help, and which ones would stay neutral no matter what happened. The human diplomatic corps had not just been making peace for 3 millennia. They had been building the largest military alliance in galactic history, one relationship at a time. When Admiral Chen Okafor's fleet reached the Cathara homeworld, they found something impossible. The planet's orbital defenses, which should have been impregnable, were falling apart. Weapon systems were turning against their own ships. The biomechanical technology that made Cathara ships so dangerous was destroying itself. High Imperator Zak Thol watched his empire crumble from his throne room on the planet's surface. His scientists had discovered the truth too late. The humans had not just studied Cathara culture and tactics during their centuries of peaceful observation. They had studied Cathara biology and technology as well. Every Cathara ship, every weapon, every piece of biomechanical equipment contained the same basic organic components. Components that could be infected with specially designed viruses. Viruses that humans had been developing in secret laboratories for hundreds of years, just in case they ever needed them. The humans had not attacked the Cathara military directly at first. They had attacked the idea of the Cathara hegemony itself. Psychological warfare campaigns broadcast across conquered worlds, turning enslaved species against their masters. Precision strikes against food production systems forced the Cathara to choose between feeding their armies and feeding their people. Human agents, who had spent decades building relationships across the galaxy, activated networks of spies and saboteurs throughout Cathara space. But the final stroke had been the virus. A biological weapon so sophisticated that it could recognize Cathara biotechnology and corrupt it from within. Every Cathara ship in the galaxy began to turn against itself. Every weapon became useless. Every defensive system started attacking its own operators. Admiral Chen Okafor walked through the corridors of the Cathara command center. Her Marines had taken the building without firing a single shot. The Cathara soldiers could not fight because their own armor was trying to kill them. She found High Imperator Zak Thol in his throne room. The massive alien was slumped in his chair, defeated. His biomechanical enhancements were sparking and smoking. His own body was betraying him. How? Zak Thol asked when he saw her. His voice was weak and broken. We studied your species for centuries. You were peaceful. You were weak. You avoided conflict. Admiral Chen Okafor looked at the creature who had threatened to enslave her species. She felt no anger toward him anymore. Only pity. We were never weak, Imperator. We were reformed. She sat down across from him, like they were having a conversation instead of a surrender ceremony. 3,000 years ago, we were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. We fought wars that terrified entire civilizations. We built weapons that could destroy solar systems. We were so good at making war that we scared ourselves. Zak Thol stared at her. Then why did you stop? Because we realized that being good at war was not the same as being good at living, Admiral Chen Okafor said. We chose to become better people. We chose to help instead of hurt. We chose to build instead of destroy. She leaned forward. But choice, Imperator, is not the same as inability. We chose not to fight. We never forgot how to fight. So you lied, Zak Thol said bitterly. You pretended to be peaceful while planning for war. Admiral Chen Okafor shook her head. We did not pretend anything. We really were peaceful. We really did want to help other species. We really did try to solve problems without violence. But we also remembered what happens to peaceful species when truly evil enemies appear. She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Kithara ships were landing and surrendering to human forces. You made the same mistake that many others have made throughout history, Imperator. You confused our kindness with weakness. You thought that because we chose not to hurt you, we could not hurt you. Zakthul was quiet for a long time. Then he asked, "What will you do with us now?" "The same thing we always do," Admiral Chanokafer said. "We will help you become better than you were. We will show you how to live without enslaving others. We will teach you to build instead of conquer." She turned back to face him. "And if you refuse to learn, we will make sure you can never hurt anyone again." The war ended not with a great battle, but with a choice. The Kithara hegemony surrendered completely and agreed to rebuild their civilization under human guidance. The enslaved species they had conquered were freed. The weapons they had built were destroyed. Within a year, human weapons were locked away again. The fleets returned to their peaceful missions. The soldiers went back to being farmers and teachers and doctors. The galaxy returned to peace, but it was a different kind of peace than before. A peace built on understanding rather than ignorance. Every species in the galaxy now knew the truth about humanity. They knew that human kindness was a choice, not a weakness. They knew that human peace was a gift, not a surrender. Dr. James Harrison returned to his hospital on New Caledonia. He went back to healing sick children and helping families. But sometimes, when he tucked his daughter Lisa into bed, he would listen to her sing the old songs. The songs that preserved the memory of what humans were capable of when they had no other choice. And sometimes, late at night, he would smile. The same smile that Admiral Chun Okafor had worn in the throne room. The same smile that Ambassador Elena Vasquez had shown to the Galactic Council. It was the smile of a species that had learned the most important lesson in the universe. The difference between being unable to fight and choosing not to fight. It was the smile of a people who had spent 3,000 years becoming the best possible version of themselves, while never forgetting the monsters they had once been. It was the smile of humanity. The most dangerous peacekeepers in galactic history. And across the stars. That smile kept the peace for thousands of years to come.